All right. Hello, everybody. Great to welcome you all in our series of talks on luxury hospitality. And it's a great pleasure to welcome our guest. I'm not sure he's a guest, really, because he never left RIT Croatia. Zoran Pejović, currently in Stockholm. Hello, Zoran.
Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful to have you. Zoran and I met, I believe, 12, 13 years ago, maybe something like that. Around 2009, I believe, something like that. And we immediately clicked together and became friends. We share many interests together. And Zoran is, in my opinion, one of the most outspoken and articulate authorities on all things hospitality, with probably the most advanced knowledge about everybody that I know on luxury hospitality. And Zoran, so it's a great honor and pleasure to have you back with us. And without further ado, I'm going to give the mic to students. I don't see Nevenka. I don't know where she is today. So I'm gonna take her question and ask you, Zoran. So what have you been doing since your last appearance on RIT Croatia Hospitality Channel, which was roughly a year ago?
That's a good question. Many things. I guess when you get to this level of career, things are not anymore straightforward. They can take many streams. And the past year, I have been mostly involved in the part that you could classify as sales and marketing and public relations, or as I prefer to call it, simply communications. And I have been taking care of communications and representation for two properties. Maslina Resort, which you probably remember from last year's talks, and the five-star boutique luxury hotel on the island of Hvar in Stari Grad, a member of Relais Chateau that has experienced its first full proper season. And that's one of the properties that I take care of. I'm their face to the world, towards the media and towards the travel agents, tour operators, event organizers, and whoever is in this role. Let's call it B2B, so business to business. I don't deal directly with so much with guests and consumers, clients, but mostly with a segment of business to business. And the other property I've been taking care of in the same way is called Villa Nai 3.3 on the island of Dugiotok, and it's an ultra luxury resort that has opened its doors to the guests this summer on July 1st. Very small property, only 8 rooms, 8 units, and that's another one of these hotels that is changing the landscape of Croatian luxury hospitality. Those are the projects that are pushing the boundaries. Those are the projects that are a different way of how luxury hospitality can be done. And I am happy to be in position to work with these properties. As you know, for Maslina Resort, I have done everything from conceptualization to project management, pre-opening, opening, following up with this positioning on the market and communications. But with Villa Nai, I only joined for this communications and representation part, and that has been also very rewarding. First of all, because I got to learn so much about another beautiful island on the Croatian coastline, Dugiotok, which doesn't has the position it deserves in the media, and I have a pleasure of presenting it to the world, not just the new property, but this island and the whole Zadar archipelago, together with the Kornati National Park and introducing this whole area to the both the journalists, the travel media, the travel trade, the event organizers, the travel agent, tour operators, and so on. So these are the main things I've been doing. I've been doing many other things along the way as well. Quite a few conferences, meetings, webinars. I've been trying to bring some new investors to Croatia, so that is definitely something I'm working on, and I hopefully I'll have something new to share with you soon. That we might be having some new good projects coming along, and I'm also here. Believe it or not, in Scandinavia, also talking to some hotel developers as they are looking in ways to further also Scandinavian luxury hospitality scene, which I don't know if it's going to come to as a surprise or not. Don't know how much you know about the Scandinavian luxury scene, but actually there is no luxury scene. There is no luxury hospitality scene in Scandinavia, and they are looking for people who can help them understand how to build a project that fits the narrative of luxury hospitality or how to present it to the world, uh, to answer the question, if we build it, will they come? You know, that's always the big question. Okay, if we build it, will they come? Will the travelers ready to spend 500 or 1,000 euros or 2,000 euros a night, will they come? And I actually find a lot of connections between Scandinavia and Adriatic, especially on the Norwegian coastline, which is very long, much longer than a Croatian coastline, and because Norway is incredibly large country, and you only realize that once you get to these parts of the world. And there is actually a lot of connections, even though at first it doesn't seem so. But they are also relying a lot on the natural beauty, same like we do, a lot on the beautiful unspoiled nature, national parks, islands. So there are things that they can actually learn from some of us, not too many, but from some of us in the Adriatic as well. Yeah, so I think
Just as a means of
and there's
quality.
plenty more things going on, but yeah, this is the majority. Let's say.
I was going to ask you about those other things. What about your public speaking persona? Have you been active in the last year? And
Yeah.
what were the main talks of the town?
So I have been involved in quite a few speaking events where I have been trying to push the problem or the challenge that we will be facing, that we are already facing in the hospitality industry, and that is the lack of interest, especially of young people, to find their career in hospitality industry. So we are definitely facing a situation in which there will be plenty of people who are willing to come and stay at the hotels, who are willing to come and travel the world, but there will be less and less people who are interested in providing those services or working in the hospitality industry. So I was intent on bringing this topic forward for larger public discussion, because I have actually avoided those talks where I have been invited, where I thought that my contribution would be just repeating what others are saying or what others believe, or I think we need to use these opportunities to actually open some real challenges that our industry is facing, and those challenges are actually not on the side of the guests. There will be enough guests, there will be enough travelers. So it's not how we can attract, obviously, all of these things are valid. How can we attract travelers? How can we make ourselves more attractive? How to map their journeys so that they are as happy as they can be, and that they are that they are appreciating what they receive in terms of service. All of those things are valid questions. However, I'm a bit more interested right now on how to attract the talent, how to ensure that we have enough good people who are willing to stay in this industry, to innovate, to push the boundaries, to understand the multiplicative factor that this industry has on the communities and on the country, that understand the responsible hospitality, that understand certain elements of sustainability that make sense, all of these things. And if we don't ensure that you guys, for example, joined 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know. It was a very different time. Now we are looking at kids who are joining, who are looking to, for example, now we need to be looking in the next generation, those who are like 5, 6, 7 years younger than you, those who are finishing high schools. So imagine somebody sitting in a third grade of high school, and they are thinking, what am I going to do in my life? I mean, are they going to decide they're going to move to hospitality industry? I don't know, because what I have seen over the past 2 years, that our industry can be turned off just like this. It's like, do I want to dedicate my career to an industry that can just go off on somebody's decision? Not going now into anything about whether it was valid or not and how countries dealt with it. That's a completely different discussion. Then you had so many people saying our industry is non-essential. You know, it's like, is that really, can that really be the case? An industry that represents 10 or 11% of the global GDP is non-essential? You know, it's like we needed more voices out there to say, okay, yes, we understand this is a problem, but we are not non-essential. So these are the topics that I wanted to bring forward. We are not non-essential. We are in the industry of people aggregation, in bringing people together. People have a need to come together, and we are in the industry of accommodating that.
All right. I'm sure that we will revisit
will
these
touch,
topics.
yeah.
Absolutely, because they seem to be highly congruent with the questions that were prepared for you by our student. So along those lines, I'd like Anna to pose her question.
Hello again. I wanted to go back to when you said that this industry could be, erased in a very short amount of time. So I wanted to ask you, how would you compare tourist season of 2021 to the season of 2020?
Yeah, so I don't think that our industry is going anywhere, really, and I don't think it will be erased. And 2021 is a proof of that. What I said, there was a public narrative, there was a discourse in the media, especially, and among people of influence, politicians or whatnot, who made it sound as if we actually don't need to travel anymore. And then this was actually coming on another trend, coming on top of another trend. I don't know if you've observed this, maybe we touched year or 2 years ago. I don't know if we've spoken about this a couple of years ago, but I don't know if you guys remember, there was this whole trend of shaming people from traveling because of the carbon footprint, because of all of these things. So then it was much easier then to come on top of that and say, well, actually now we have on top of that COVID, so let's not travel, let's cancel travel and tourism entirely. And this sentiment has its support. There are people who are against tourism. They think the tourism destroys local communities. They think the whole world, just the word tourist has gained some notoriety. It almost has like a negative connotation, so that you even have people who don't want to call themselves tourists. They want to call themselves travelers, as somehow it makes it sound better. But to get back to your question, 2021 was very good season, and especially I think for the luxury segment, it was incredibly a good season, and it showed again a lot of problems that we have in the industry. The problems with the supply chain. We didn't. there were hotels who couldn't get water in August because the water suppliers were running out of water. I'm talking about, for example, Jamnica or Romerquelle so the suppliers didn't prepare. It's one thing, for example, when a small hotelier, you're a small hotelier, you have 10 rooms, you're not sure how the season is gonna be, and then you play by the ear and you're waiting to see how things are gonna play out. But then you have the large suppliers, for example, Coca-Cola, it supplies water, and then they had a problem because the demand was so big, and they were not ready to accommodate this demand. So a lot of problems that we've seen for the first time actual congestions on the highways in Dalmatia, between Zadar and Split. I've never seen it. I got stuck a couple of times in traffic going between Split and Zadar, and I was like, okay, this is new. It felt between Munich and Stuttgart. It was really, it showed a lot of problems that we have in terms of infrastructure, in terms of extreme seasonality, huge pressure that we have on those couple of months. But it was great in the sense of how many people thought that Croatia was safe country, secure country, that it was at the top of people's minds, and they would go like, okay, yes, we're gonna go there. Now, we actually don't know if this is because Greece was already filled and then they said, let's go second to. We still need to understand all of these things. This is why we need to do more research than just fall back on the numbers and to just sit on some kind of high chair and be so happy how this season played out. We actually still don't understand why things happen the way they happen. And I'm not saying they will ever understand them fully, but to understand them a bit more. Because I have had so many travel agents calling me saying, oh, well, we couldn't find anything, I don't know, in Santorini, so our next option is Hvar. So I'm thinking, like, how can we make Hvar still a first option? So you have to keep in mind, Thailand was nowhere to be reached. Indonesia was nowhere to be reached. Entire Southeast Asia, which is kind of like a third of the world, world's hotels are there, was out of reach. Middle East was to an extent out of reach, to an extent completely open. Obviously, the United Arab Emirates are open, but some other parts are completely closed. Caribbean was so and so. So then Mediterranean remained really as a top destination. And we, again, were to an extent lucky. And I'm not saying that luck is not something that is good. Luck is good. We all need luck. You need serendipity and luck, and you need to play on that luck. But I would like for us to understand a bit more why. We all understand why 2020 played the way it did, but we need to understand a bit more why 2021 was so good, and to understand the reason 2 and 3 behind. So kind of like a couple of steps in the back, not just to say, yes, of course, we've done an incredible job. Hotels were full, camps were full, restaurants did well, people had money and they wanted to spend money, and that was great. Let's hope, well, I always say hope is not a good business strategy. I think you remember this probably from last year. So I don't want to say let's hope for anything. Let's understand. Let's try to learn something from this and to be ready for next year or for 2 years from now.
All righty, Tanya.
Good afternoon again. So my question is connected to talent, and you have already mentioned that this whole pandemic and COVID-19 situation is partially to blame for the reasons that we cannot attract or keep talent. But we would like to ask for your insight. Why do you think actually it's so hard to attract talent and maybe even actually to keep talent in the hospitality industry?
We are, you're never ever gonna get rich working in this industry. So this is nothing new, unless you become an owner and then get very lucky and then somehow things play out that way. But working in this industry, is not the most, this has never been the most lucrative industry. Obviously, if you go into finance, if you go into banking, if you go into big pharma, there are so many other industries where you can make more money than working in the hospitality industry. So we have to be very open about that. This is not an industry that pays the best amount of money. However, this is an industry where you work with people, and there is a lot of people out there who like working with other people. Their interest is not to work with things, as in to work with computers, which is kind of like half of the world now is like interested in working with computers. For example, I am not interested in working with things. I'm interested in working with people. And there is very few industries that are better in that sense than hospitality industry. We're working all the time with people. You're working with the guests, you're working with your fellow colleagues, with your teams, you are working with suppliers. And however, again, to come back to the question of why it is difficult to retain talent. There has been also a lot of true cases in which people were also mistreated in this industry. The long working hours, unpaid overtime, not appropriate accommodation for people, not a so there is a lot of real problems that this industry has faced for decades now. And we have failed mostly to address, as hospitality leaders, to address this whole problem of mapping the employee journey, understanding how the life for an employee in hotel or any part of the hospitality industry looks like. And then COVID came on top of that and made people afraid for their livelihoods, made people lose their jobs, and then this public narrative about hospitality industry not being non-essential. So all of these things came on top of each other to create a perfect storm in which we can see that people are not ready to embark on the careers in this industry because perhaps they don't have enough budget for uncertainty that this industry currently asks for. We all have to look into ourselves and understand, how much uncertainty am I ready to handle? And if you are, that's great. This industry currently is very uncertain. It has a lot of ups and downs. Very few things are under our control. Whether we would like to present it that it's not their way, but actually it is their way. We actually don't know. I can do whatever I want on the markets out there, but then one day they just say the borders are closed, or you need additional tests, or you need to do this. So it's completely outside of our control. Whatever we do, we are at mercy of others. And for a lot of people, this is too stressful. I think especially in this time and age when young people, and including yourselves, not particularly, but in person you, but I mean your generation, had a bit less problems in your lives than the previous generations had. And then, we grew up in a bit different times. I grew up through the war. So for me, uncertainty was every day. And now going, and I think it's great that none of you grew up through the war or that you had famines or anything like that. But now for majority of the people, those uncertainties are too much and they just don't want to join this industry. So what we need to do is we really need to map that journey for the employees. We need to make things sound appealing again, to show people career paths, how they can advance, how they can, what are all the things that they can learn. Because the things that you can learn in this industry, there's very few places you can. A good hotel general manager needs to be like a mayor of the city, needs to be able to read financial reports, needs to be able to hire and fire, needs to be able to show up on a television and or in front of journalists and sound like he or she knows what he or she is talking about, eloquently, needs to know languages, needs to be able to sign contracts with suppliers. This is, it's not easy to find so many industries that are as complex as this one, even though it's so simple at the end of the day, because what we are doing, we are delivering good service with a smile. So, but the simple things sometimes are very, very, very difficult. Why? Because we are dealing with people. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
So good afternoon from me as well. So after we understood why the lack of hospitality talent is increasing, unfortunately, I would like to focus our attention on generated demand in hospitality marketing. According to ehoteliers.com, a big percentage of the hoteliers made a mistake to ignore the activities that generate more demand and rather are focusing on accommodated demand. Could you please give us your definition on generated demand in hospitality marketing? And what do you think are the activities which lead and differentiates the generated demand from the accumulated demand in hospitality marketing? Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. All right, so this is kind of tying back to that. What I said initially, do we understand why was 2021 so successful? You know, did we just accommodate something that was there to be accommodated, or we created something? Have we generated something? So accommodated demand is literally filling. That's what it says, accommodating demand. Somebody wants to come and you give them a room. Great, you didn't do anything. And for too long, especially our hoteliers relied on that because people were just coming. And then, you know, you go around and you ask them about their sales and marketing activities. They don't really have them. Do they understand their buyer personas? You know, do they understand their the market segmentation? Do they understand the trends? Do they have scenario 2 and 3? What if this happens? What if that happens? Pretty much nothing. Very little. And I know this sounds harsh, but it's true. Because things were just happening. The generated demand is something different. It's taking rooms either from somebody else. So for example, us being #1 destination, not overflow for Greece and Italy, and then whatever can't get to Greece and Italy, and we are just scooping on top of it, but actually taking their best guests. We are taking it from them. So we can be taking it from other people, or we can be taking it from the future. People who thought, I want to travel in 3 months, but you give them a reason to travel now. That is also generated demand. Generated demand is something that you create outside of your high season. Everybody is gonna sell in July and August, and really this is, you know, obvious to everybody. But what do you do in May? What do you do in April? What do you do in October? You know, this is where especially this low season generation. This is the generated demand. And this is definitely something that needs to be addressed a bit more in our discourse. You know, you can call it also unaccommodated demand or induced demand. You know, that's the demand that the existing market supply has not realized yet. So yeah, there is and the question is how does one do that? I mean, it's easy to. Well, I guess everything starts with firstly understanding the problem. So I think if we understand that we have those two different things, that we have accommodated and unaccommodated demand, and that we don't understand really the difference between the two, let's first understand the difference. But now, how do we do this induced demand? Well, you actually have to provide something that people are willing to change their mind for. There is a thing, you know, what Steve Jobs said, you know, people didn't know that they want iPhone until he made it, or Apple made it. It's not only understanding what people want, but creating something that they might want once you show it to them. So I don't know if, you know, when we built Maslina Resort, or started developing Maslina Resort, and I told the banks that we are going to aim for 500-600 euros average room night. You know, the bank said, show me your comp comp set means competitive set. You know, it's a basket of hotels against which you compare yourself to. And I showed them a competitive set that included hotels from Turkey, from Greece, one from Montenegro, few from Italy, and only one from Croatia. And they said, but you know, this is like, what do you mean? You know, this is your comp set is not Croatian hotels. But what if there is nobody to compare to? We have a problem. If you are only doing what others are doing, obviously you're not going to be the one that is inducing demand and generating demand and creating unaccommodated demand. But if you're doing, and this doesn't mean that you have to do something different. I mean, you know, all those things about being unique, all of those things, you can put them as BS. Be distinct, be good about something. You know, just be as good as you can be in what you do, and that is in today's world unique. So you don't have to be doing anything crazy, and tell it in a nice way. Give a good story, and stories are all around us. We don't have to invent anything. There are parts of the world that have to invent everything. We don't have to invent anything. Look, Luca is from Hvar. He knows. You know, Hvar, 7 different UNESCO protections, sunniest island in Europe. Oldest town on Eastern Adriatic, starting at 2,400 years old. Thousands of years of wine making, of olive oil making, essential oils, aromatic oils, all of these things, all of these stories are there. Okay, that is already part of the slowly of the common narrative. That's why, for example, Hvar again won Condé Nast Traveler Best Island in Europe. But take, for example, now Dug Otok, where I'm doing this project at Vilanai. It's a gateway to Kornati National Park, one of the most unique national parks in the world. It's an island of such an incredible, diverse geography. It has a lake in the middle of the island. I don't know if you guys ever been to Dug Otok. It's one of the most spectacular places you can go in the world. Nobody knows about it. You know, so because we don't know, well, we don't know. Generally, we don't know how to tell these stories. And then storytelling is just the start. And then you build on that. And then you provide good service. And then you teach or ask people to join you in this. And then things start rolling. And then you start generating. It's not an easy overnight job. That's why people don't really like going on this path, because it does feel like it's going to take years, and it does. Unfortunately, all the good things take time.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So apart from marketing, right, in your opinion, in general, where should the owners invest in order to get return on their generated capital?
Okay, I see where this is going, because I think so it's very easy for investors to invest in hardware. It's very easy for them because they see it, it's tangible. It's not going to run away anywhere. I don't know if you guys have heard of that that like a little joke, like a discussion between a CEO and CFO, when the chief financial officer says, what if we invest so much money in these people and they leave us? That's the CFO is concerned because he's concerned about finances, and then CEO says, what if we don't? So that's a challenge in the industry. Investors are not so keen on investing in people. They are not keen in investing in people because of the industry's high turnover. You know, our industry has the highest turnover in any industry. 71% was before COVID. I don't know what it is now. Probably we need to wait for a few years before we can talk about these numbers, because COVID mixed up everything upside down. You know what does it mean, 71%? That at the beginning of a year, you take account of your people, and then in a year, 71 out of those 100 will be different. So it's the highest turnover of any industry. And then obviously for investors, that seems like throwing money down the toilet. So, however, they will not achieve that return on their investment without investing in people, without investing in proper positioning on the market, in understanding what it means to build networks. Because think about one thing. We are talking about, for example, being member of different memberships, consortia, affiliations. But who is member really? Is it the physical building, or is it the people who are representing those physical buildings? You know, Maslin Resort, for example, is a member of Relais Chateau. It's one of the most prestigious hotel associations out there. It's also a member of Virtuoso Preferred Network, which is the most respected consortia of travel agents. He has received Condé Nast Traveler award as 2021 one of the best hotels in the world, same with Travel and Leisure. But all of those things lay on the foundation of networks that exist between few people that have been involved in development of this project. They have been building up for decades and have had their final crowning in this project. And this is not something that you can buy. This actually, people think that you can buy this, but you can't. Because just think how many people out there is with money and they would buy it if they could, but they just can't. So those networks depend on people, and people you need to invest in. And that is very difficult for so many investors to realize that they need to invest money after finishing the building. That the investment doesn't stop with the hotel opening. That the hotel opening is just the beginning. That you need to keep investing, maybe for years. I'm not talking now about, we're talking about both human capital and finances, into proper positioning, into proper communication that is built on those networks of people.
All right. I think that goes in line with what we heard from other speakers who mentioned that the best global luxury hotels actually have very stable workforce. Not too many people want to leave Burj Al Arab, obviously.
Yeah.
Not too many people want to leave the Carlyle or the Dorchester Collection Hotel.
Yeah.
And it's actually those relationships that create luxury experiences. It's based on empathy. It's based on knowing people. And it's not something that can be just taken from the shelf and microwaved. It's not something that can be copied easily. So it's mainly in the software. Hardware is much more easy to copy, right? I come to your hotel, I stay in your rooms, I can copy the room, I can copy the technology, I can copy.
You know, we spoken about this probably also last year to an extent. It's one thing to talk about the product, and this is something to an extent that can be copied. But the much bigger problem is the processes. And the processes, it's very hard to copy the processes because you don't understand how did they get to be the way they are. You know, you can't. So many. I've hosted quite a few of people who've come to see, for example, Maslin Resort or now Villa Nye or some other properties, and they're only interested in the ways the windows close. And I'm like, I can't believe it. You know, I say, guys, but then you don't need me here, really. Like, you know, I'm sure that you just go to Chico in Germany and they will tell you how to make windows really close really well. You know, that's not a question for hospitality. It is like the feeling when you walk into a hotel, that ambience, combination of smells, of music, of tastes, of that creates in you. Do you feel the biggest compliment in terms of architecture and design that, for example, Maslin Resort can get is when people say, the moment I stepped in this hotel, I was feeling relaxed. That means that there was something achieved because it's intangible. This feeling of relaxation comes at in this Venn diagram of these circles that overlap at this very small overlapping area where everything came together. it just is not too much, is not too little, it's not too formal, is not too casual, it's just right. And you actually never know when you're going to achieve that. But that is something that I need to talk about, not about how the windows close.
Easy to achieve. All right. We obviously checked your LinkedIn account thoroughly, and we also saw that you spoke about bifurcation of travel, that we're sort of at the fork in the road, that hospitality is going to go two separate ways, that maybe we can speak about two.
It has to go, it goes back to the challenge of talent, of retaining talent in the industry. Mostly, but not only, but mostly thanks to that. Hotels will be looking how to automate things and avoid depending on people. And that is going to be this low touch, high tech fork of the industry. And this low touch, high tech fork of the industry doesn't necessarily have to be on a budget. This is where people sometimes, I think, make a mistake, assuming that this bifurcation is going to mean that the luxury goes one way and then everything else is cheap. No, you will be able to have a very, very spacious suites, very spacious apartments, very spacious rooms, everything at your disposal, but everything is going to be on the bottom. So you're never going to meet people. Same like now you go to a shopping and you actually don't have anybody, no cashiers anymore. I mean, yesterday I was here in Stockholm, and in most of these shopping malls, there is no more cashiers anywhere. There's nobody. You do everything on your own. You pack your own things until you walk into a street where you have like 200 square meters with 10 pieces of clothes and 10 people running around. You know, there's like huge difference. In our industry, it's similar things are happening. The only thing is that this the low touch high tech segment is going to have its own different divisions. It's going to have its own, almost like its own stars, and that's going to be one part of the industry. For people who don't want to see other people, for people who are comfortable traveling this way, for people who enjoy depending on the technology, for various. On the other hand, the high touch can be both high tech and low tech. So again, it's not simple, but this is the main bifurcation. It's on the people side, because the tech has to be in the low touch. Tech has to play the main role, otherwise there is nothing. In the high touch, even it's going to be higher touch than it is today. You can have low tech and high tech, and this is going to be almost an option to people to choose between if they want to have keys that are coming to their phones, or they still want an actual physical key. All of these things. This is just a very, very smallest of examples. The thing is this. Think about this. What is disappearing is the things in the middle, and I think that is the sign of our times. You know, the middle class or middle anything, everything is disappearing. You know, so we are having just extremes. I mean, in the politics, as you can see, middle is disappearing, center is disappearing. I don't know how much you're interested in what's going on around the world in politics, but everything is extreme. You can't sell anything that is in the middle that tells people, yeah, actually, both sides have something smart to say about this. You know, if you say something like that, you're completely not popular. But on all aspects is like that. So middle ground is disappearing, middle class is disappearing, and I'm not talking only about in economic sense, but in every other sense. So that bifurcation is visible already, and it's going to be visible even more as we go. The reason is following. When you think about the number of luxury resorts in the world, we could do an exercise and actually find out how many chains are considered to be luxury chains in the world. true luxury chains in the world. And then you find out how many each of their hotels has rooms, and then add it all up, and then add maybe few hundred of the boutique hotels to that, and you know what you will get. You will not get millions of rooms. You will not get hundreds of thousands of rooms. You will get thousands, at best tens of thousands of rooms in the entire world. So we are talking, for example, I used to work for Aman Resorts. Aman Resorts has today, I don't know, 30 hotels. On average, 40 rooms. That's 1,200 rooms. 1,200 rooms. Hotel company that's considered the most innovative hotel company of 20th century. Add to that one and only with its 5-6 hotels. Six Senses, I don't know, 35. Capella, 15. Just add it all up, and you're going to find that it's actually not millions of rooms, it's not hundreds of thousands of rooms, it's tens of thousands of rooms. On the other hand, look at, just, you go to online, you go to Google and just type number of new millionaires per day. And then you will see that every day there's so many new millionaires. You know, and then you just type like in India, number of daily millionaires in India. Then you type number of daily new millionaires in China, Central Europe East, Middle East, all of these places. And actually, we're talking about an incredibly large amount of people that want to stay at these places that are going to be able to charge more and more and more. I think my prediction is that, and I really don't like predictions, but I don't know, sometimes some things become so obvious that I want to share them. Whatever is 500 euros today, it's going to be 5,000 by 2030. They will be completely normal to pay 5,000 euros for a luxury hotel room night. And I just think there will be enough people who will be able to spend their money. What's going to happen on the other side of things, I don't know. That's again a much bigger, wider discussion, unless we see some major disruption in terms of a global war or something like that. But given that the world just continues as it is, the need, the demand is larger than the supply, and the demand is going to continue increasing. And those who will be able to both accommodate it and find ways to generate more will be on the winning side. But they will need more people. They will have to find those people. And then we have this loss of talent. So you see how everything is just one loophole, like a wormhole in which you fall in and you don't know how to get out. You don't know what's first.
A case in point, today I read that actually there is a large surge in demand for champagnes, and that the supply of France or Champagne region cannot keep up with that. So there you have it, right? Luxury goods in any time of crisis, and we obviously are in a type of crisis on so many fronts, not only hospitality, but energy and production and whatnot. But we have a surge in demand for luxury product, which is a paradox perhaps, but many things are paradoxical. Now, Nico, with a question from the old world, perhaps. Nico.
Yes. It's going to be more in the broad scope of things, but in your opinion, Zoran, what is the role and influence of the tourism board in today's industry? You know, is the key point to emphasize just on, you know, the safety to COVID, you know, destination marketing, or in your eyes, what could be that, you know, new thing to point on?
It's probably not unknown that I'm not a big fan of tourist boards. I'm not a big fan of large governments in general. And this is one of the governmental bodies, even though it shouldn't be, because tourist boards initially were intended as a representation of a certain destination that is managed by people who have an invested interest in promoting the destination. However, I think in our time and age, this has become just another political body that is yeah, I'm not gonna go into too deep into this. Let's go back into what they can be actually doing. I think most of the things that they should be doing is in line with research and education. They need to provide us with information what is actually going on, because they have the money to do continuous research of the for example, me as a hotelier, I know I have, let's say I have one hotel or 3 hotels or 10 hotels, and I'm facing all these challenges of retaining the talent and attracting the guests and facing the problems with supply chain, all of these things. I don't have time to conduct research in why guests come where they come, what are the motivations, what are they looking for, how happy they are with what we have to offer, what they see as the challenges. So if they definitely would need to engage much more in this part of research and understanding. Then the education part is something that they could also engage more in. But you know what? For education, you actually have to have people who are able to educate. So all of these things assume that you have people who know how to do proper research, that you have to have people, and then those people are not cheap. So I then I really don't see even the point of them existing, because if you know they're just going to continue being a purpose, their existence becomes they exist to serve themselves in a way. And that doesn't mean that there are no amazing people out there. But it's not a proof of anything. You know, you have amazing people out there, the directors of tourist boards, especially internationally. For example, we have, I think we still have a director of tourist board, Croatian tourist board in New York, Ina Rodin, who's doing an incredible job, who's been just incredibly helpful to people. Same, some of these international tourist offices actually make some sense. However, 330 something tourist boards that we have in Croatia with 330 presidents of tourist boards, I don't know, it just sounds quite ridiculous, you know. For example, on the island of Hvar, we have 4 tourist boards. 4 tourist boards. We used to have 5. You know, but Suchurai canceled themselves. They don't have a tourist board anymore. So now we have Jelsa, Vrboska. I mean, you know, municipality of Jelsa has 2 tourist boards. One is a tourist board of Jelsa, one is tourist board of Vrboska. And then obviously we have Starigrad and Hvar. And I mean, you know, I speak publicly about these things, and I know that people don't enjoy it. And I know all of these people there, and they're nice people, and they try to do, but they can do very little, because then, you know, they don't really have budgets, and they're trying to do something, do a little show, local manifestation, something to prove the value of their existence. But I don't see how that can make anything move forward, really. It's so, yeah, I'm not a big fan of them, and I would definitely look to restructure that whole thing. And then when it comes to sales and marketing, I'm not sure that it should really be the tourist board's jobs to do sales and marketing for a destination, because at the end of the day, it's hard to promote one destination. I think it's a job of everybody in a country to promote a destination, of the government, of the businesses, to show that you are a safe and secure destination, that there is enough things that make one want to come. But for them to do that, and at the end of the day, let's talk about that. About, for example, about the sales and marketing, not even sales, let's call it marketing, that the tourist boards have done, that Croatia has done over the last 20-30 years. I don't know how much, guys, you know about different marketing strategies. Have you spoken about what does it mean endorsed brand, or what does it mean house of brands or branded house? I don't know if you've touched on that in some of your marketing classes. Do you remember? For example, when you have talking about Croatian islands and talking about islands, islands are just amazing. You know, islands are one of those words, most romanticized words in English language, because they project, you know, the fantasy, and we have quite a few of them, right? But which type of marketing do we have? When you think about Maldives, for example, that is a branded house. You actually don't know the names of other islands, right? There's hundreds of islands there. You don't know anything. You just know Maldives. You know, they worked hard on creating that strong branded house, Maldives. And they are synonymous with luxury. They are synonymous with that image of beautiful beaches and sea and sun and sand and all of that. Are we? Do you think we are in the same category? Do we have any understand? Is the world seeing our islands as a no? Okay, so then let's talk about second option. For example, house of brands. I don't know how much you know about Balearic Islands. Balearic Islands are islands, Spanish group of islands, an archipelago that has 4 famous islands. But this is house of brands. So the top is less important. So they just call it Balearic Islands, but then you have Mallorca, Menorca, Ibiza, and fourth one now is escaping me. Anyway, so they have Balearic Islands as a house above, and then they have strong brands. And then Mallorca, when you go to Mallorca or you go to Ibiza, you never say you go to Spain. You know, you say you go to Ibiza, these are strong brands. I'm trying to push something like this for Hvar. Not because I want Hvar separate from Croatia, but because when people go to Hvar, I want them to say, I'm going to Hvar, because it's a strong brand. When they go to Santorini, have you ever heard somebody going to Santorini saying, I'm going to Greece? No, they're proud to say that they're going to Santorini, because Greece can be anything. It's not a small country, but I'm going to Santorini, and Santorini is a special place. It's one of those places, wow, I want to go there. You know, and then you have this sub-brand, master sub-brand relation. So for example, Croatia, I think, has been playing mostly on this master brand, sub-brand relation, where Croatia is the master brand and some of these are sub-brands. Now, have they success? Dubrovnik, for example. Is Dubrovnik sub-brand of Croatia, or is Croatia sub-brand of Dubrovnik? I don't know. You know, so it's like, what is the relationship of these brands? How strong does it work together? You know, you can think about other industries. It doesn't have to be hospitality, but these relationships of master brand, sub brand. And then you have these endorsed brands, you know, where you have, like, for example, the Lofoten Islands in Norway. They are strong, but they still are endorsed by Norway. So it always says Lofoten Island, Norway. You know, so, but they don't sleep on the, they actually, Norway there as a brand is not important. It's just more like a geographic distinction. So it's like, and then you think about where we are in terms of positioning our islands, these whatever 50 something 60 inhabited islands and hundreds of these uninhabited islands. And do we have a house of brands? Do we say Dalmatian islands? Not really. Do we say Croatian islands? I don't know. That's actually not a term I've come across almost ever. So not, is it Adriatic islands? I don't know. Not really, because then that would assume also there is Montenegro, there is Greece, there is Slovenia, there's Italy obviously on the other side. Adriatic is a very loose term. So Croatian islands, Adriatic islands, Dalmatian islands, well, not all of them are Dalmatian. Then you can go up to Kvarner, and it's like, you know, so that house of brand. But then, you know, this, and then what do we do with Hvar? How can we connect Hvar, Brač, Korčula, for example? Is that like one group that we want to promote together and create brand awareness for each of them? How they relate to the master brand? I have never really seen a clear strategy from our best and brightest minds in these tourist boards. They come out and say, okay, this is what we're gonna work on, you know. So I'm waiting.
Right. In my opinion, I don't think that they have the knowledge or expertise to put these questions on the mind map, Zoran, because many of them are just political appointees, and it's sort of sad to see that hospitality industry so many times is at mercy of people who, by their backgrounds, have very little to do with hospitality. So tourist boards, counties, for example, even board of directors of hospitality companies, so many times those people who really call the shots on the strategic level do not have the expertise or the background.
I'll give you a little anecdote on that segment. A good colleague of mine, we were sitting in the same classes as you guys just 20 years ago. We graduated at the same time. So we started the same time, we graduated the same time, but then our careers took very different paths. I ended up working in the luxury hospitality, independent hotels around the world, and he got a job in one of our corporate hotel companies, domestic corporate hotel companies, and he made it all the way up. He's in the board of directors of one of the major hotel companies in Croatia. And one day we are sitting and talking. We haven't spoken for a long time. And he comes to Maslina, and I welcome him. We have a glass of champagne, and we start talking. And he's telling me about their challenges, and I'm telling him about our challenges. And he says all of the things, about trying to set up good financial systems, have good inventories, have good contracted suppliers, all of these things. And he finishes, and then I start talking about guest experiences and employee experiences. And he says after that whole thing, and he just says, yeah, I hope we start talking about those things one day as well. This was a very honest comment from a good guy. And he actually, because he says, oh, well, yeah, actually, you're talking everything from the guest perspective. We are really not there at that stage yet. So it is what it is, So those are different views on the industry.
That's a very telling anecdote, Zoran.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'd like to invite our Luksha with his question that he prepared for Zoran.
So hello. So I did a research a little bit on your LinkedIn, and I saw at one of your posts that you mentioned some new revenue generation strategies that could help the hospitality industry to rebound from COVID-19. So can you tell us something more about that?
Yeah, I think that's quite simple. When you're talking about hospitality industry. Okay, let's talk about hotels. Firstly, you think about accommodation. You think about the rooms. Then secondly, you think about food and beverage. And then thirdly, maybe you're thinking about something that in the industry is colloquially known as MOD, minor operating departments. And then everybody is obviously focused on filling up those rooms, but then there's only so many rooms you can fill up. And then everybody is focused, secondly, okay, those people have to eat, you provide them some food. However, there is so much money out there and so many things people are willing to pay for that so many of our hotels, but not just hotels, think about maybe hotel can't come up with all of these things on their own. But if you are living, I'm gonna come back to Luka because he's from IOSA, and he becomes good at something, and he comes to Maslina and say, you know what, I'm producing essential oils, and I'm happy to organize a tour for your guests of my little production facility, and I'm gonna tell them about the amazing history of medicinal herbs of Hvar Island, and I'm gonna become an expert in this subject. And what we use different, what we use sage for, what we use lavender for, what we use chrysanthemum for, what we use all these different herbs for. And then I have done one day tasting of aromas of different herbs and medicinal herbs, like wine. Put them in glasses and then start smelling them and talking about it. I think if I wanted to charge at that moment 100 euros per person for half an hour tasting, nobody would say anything. So this is not this when I say additional revenue generations. It doesn't mean only for the hospitality companies. It means for everybody involved. If the hospitality company doesn't ask you do this, or DMC, maybe a destination management company, they run out of ideas. They are tired. But if you come up with something cool and educate yourself and create a story from that and create a narrative, and you say, this is good, I have an option, half an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, and create a pricing structure. And then this can be also additional source of revenue for you, but it is tied to the hospitality and industry of the hospitality and tourism sector. In all of your little worlds, I guarantee that you have something to offer that is exceptional. You are finishing university, a college degree right now. You have tried to work in different places. You worked in different places. You were exposed to cool ideas, worked with cool professors, listened to interesting people. And then you have your own talents and proclivities. And then your families, and then your friends. Start looking around and slowly start building that base, knowledge base, that storytelling, and try and preparing yourself to deliver this as a service, as an experience when the time is right. So this is, Luksha, what I'm thinking about. This is the way we change this July and August into March to November. Not by just saying, okay, we have empty rooms and we're gonna provide breakfast included, but by coming up with all of these nice little cool stories, packaging them up in good experiences, and delivering them in an authentic, honest way to the people, because people want to pay for these things. We are talking today about. Domagoj, there is one. I'm gonna send you, and maybe you can share. Maybe you can share with the class. Now, there is a professor at Cambridge, I think, or Oxford. I think it was Cambridge, a psychologist. He's talking about luxury ideas. That we are living in a time where obviously we've moved away from luxury goods to an extent. People understand what is a luxury good, and whether that's luxury or commodity, now it's very hard to say. Most of those luxury goods are not really luxury anymore, they're commodities. Because if it is accessible it's a question whether a champagne is a luxury anymore, if it can be accessible by almost 1 billion people. So I hardly can call that a luxury. But then we moved from experiences as kind of a luxury, intangible. But now we are even talking about luxury ideas, almost giving opportunity for people to think about certain things becomes luxury. So, just all of these things, but I don't even know, who to talk to about these things other than you guys and the new generations that come along, because there is so much that could be done in this way.
It's really, when you think about it, it's really about knowledge, right? It's about knowing your customers, knowing their psychographics, knowing the demand, right? And having an educated mind with enough sophistication and granularity of picture. You're talking about culture, not only knowledge, right? Because all these tangible goods are easily copied and they become commoditized, but what's really not easy to copy is experiences, and these experiences are cultural, they're high knowledge based, and they reside in people, right? And this is why we need to invest in people. This is why we need to invest in knowledge, because without that, there won't be any cultural experiences, right? I mean, you just blew my mind with that herb tasting event, you know, and I was thinking in my mind, you know, like, do I know anybody, right, from my surroundings who could do the same for 12 medicinal herbs that I know that we have in my gardens?
Yeah.
You know, and it's not only about knowing the herbs, it's also about knowing how to present, right, and knowing your customer. And it's about making the cultural bridge, you know, being empathetic, not doing that kind of like mechanistically, but with grace, with enough personalization, with enough.
I'm going to actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to share screen. Yeah.
You probably.
I'm going to show. Yeah. So, do you see my screen?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, for example, you know, what you have here is not just, I don't know, 12, 15 different smells and herbs, but you have some of them in a dry form, in a fresh form, and, you know, and then you take people through this aromatic experience. And that brings, and actually it is known. So now this is what we mentioned about psychology. Sometimes that's why I think there are certain things that knowledge is key to understand that sound and smells are extremely powerful triggers. And this almost everybody who was on this little exercise with me, where I took them through this, had a moment where they said, well, this brings me to my childhood. This brings me to my grandparents. This brings me to the time when I've done this and that. And people are in such incredible emotional state where you're not misusing it. You are providing for them a journey, you know. And this is, for example, something that I've done without really thinking how to create it. I almost stumbled on this. I started putting things in glasses and started talking about it and started smelling and started giving, and then I expanded it to this number of glasses, wine glasses, literally. Is so, you know, there's so much. This is a whole new industry that could or segment of our industry that could emerge from something like this.
Oh, just to underline what you said, I think that we all remember from our food and travel class how tastes and smells are so important, because they make an immediate kinesthetic, like bodily connection with the memory, and they are inseparable from insights and realizations, and they are basically the keepers of relationships. So I'm sure that everybody who's been at that experience, every time they smell the Damascus rose that I saw over there, will make an immediate mental connection with their heart experience, and that is going to be, you know, an induction to coming back. So I mean, it's an incredible link. It's very, it's more than trivial, you know. I would call it spiritual. Speaking of which, and this is kind of like a fun question for the end, I think that we have your neighbor, Ileana, who wants to ask you about something F&B related.
Thank you. Good afternoon once again. As our professor mentioned, we checked your LinkedIn profile, and in the article published in 2016, we read about the superior combination of wine and cigars. My question is, what is the role or opportunity of upscale food and beverage, including cigars, in the present luxury offer on this side of the Adriatic?
So cigars are a complex product that has its own strong following. So it's a passion of mine. So it's something that I engage in enjoying relatively often. And there's very few things that are as specific as cigars that are so dependent on the seasonality, on geography, where tobacco comes from, and things like that. That's why it's important to divest it from, to remove it from the cigarettes smoking, which has nothing to do with cigar smoking. But this has actually, your question is good, because in a way it ties to what we just spoke about, the tasting or smelling of the olfactory experience of different aromas. All of these things can expand one's offering. It's but you need to know how to properly store the cigars, how to select them, how to store them, how to present them to the guests, to create an environment in which they will feel that is welcoming for them to smoke this cigar. It's the same thing like with wine. It's the same thing with coffee. It's the same thing with these products that, again, people become almost followers, almost like a cult followers. You have people who only drink coffee from specific regions in Ethiopia or Colombia, and they travel the world to find that Jamaica Blue Mountain, or they know every single, this one is washed, this one is this way done, this, and everybody, this kopi luwak, this one crazy coffee that comes, I know, somewhere from Indonesia. It's all this same thing with wine. You travel the world to visit the wine producers, because what is the connection between all of these things? Whoever goes into production of wine, whoever embarks in the world of cigar production, whoever embarks, these people are long-term thinkers. You can't think that you're going to get into wine industry and then you're going to have something in 6 months, because in 6 months you don't actually, you don't even have grapes. So if, for example, you decide you want to get into that industry, you need years and years. So that means that you're a patient person, that you have that you are dedicated, that you are persistent, and generally these are good people. They have these characteristics. I have found that people in these industries, in the production of coffee, of tobacco, for cigars, in the wine industry, are generally good, decent, honest, authentic people, because they depend on nature. They don't control nature. They depend on nature. They learn to listen to the nature. And what we can do in hospitality industry is learn from them how to best present their products to the guests, how to create experiences from them, how to promote these people, how to build the whole storyline and storytelling around them. So whether it be, for example, we produce wine, so for us that is natural. Olive oil as well. Cigars we don't produce. Cigars come only from good cigars come only from the Caribbean countries. Obviously Cuba is the most famous, but then also Dominican Republic, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, parts of Brazil, and but they offer, there's obviously, these are a bit more challenging items because of the smoking tobacco and the way it is perceived and the health consequences. But I think as adults, as long as we don't impact others, we should be allowed the ways we enjoy certain things. And if then again stories built around it and presented nicely, it can create again that generated demand. We have this cigar smoking world championship that is taking place in Split for 11 years now, 11th year now. Every single year we get a couple of hundred people who travel from all around the world to come to Split together for a championship in slow smoking of cigars. These are people who can afford to take a week of their time to come from United States or Russia or anywhere else in the world, pay the hotel in Split, to take part in one event organized by a person from Split who is not a media present in the media, which is good for him and good because it would just generate maybe some wrong people who start coming there. But this was when you would think that he's organized 11 of these events, and let's say from 2014 it really became a big thing. So let's say 7 years, and let's say that in 7 years he has had on average 200 people coming from all around the world. So we are talking 1,400 people over 7 years. And then let's say that these people on average stayed 6 nights. We are talking about 10,000 room nights in September that he generated. We are kind of tying up back here with the generated demand. They would most probably would never come to Croatia. We had this year on the championship, a couple from United States, from Buffalo, New York, upper state New York, who were for the first time in their life in Europe, because they won on an American championship, and they came. They were the most excited people I've ever met in my life, because they were literally like, wow, we are in Europe. But when they would come to Europe one day in their life, but probably Croatia would not be top of their list. They would want to come to Paris and see the Eiffel Tower. There's just places that you have to tick off and by the time you come to Croatia, you've already been to Rome, to Paris, you've been to Athens, you've done these things, and then maybe. But because of this championship, first communication with Europe was Croatia. And for them, Split and the islands, because there was an event that took around the islands, is Europe for them. So when they go back home and they will talk about Europe, the funny thing is now, when I worked in Southern California, I used to have on my tagline, first of all, this is a long time ago, Croatia is now much more famous. But back in the day, I would have, like it would say, Zoran, Croatia. And then they would say, Croatia, yeah, part of Russia. Okay, I would stop explaining. And then I had Montenegro, and then they would say, yeah, South America. Okay, so I put Europe. So I had on my tagline, it says Zoran and Europe underneath. And then they would say Eiffel Tower. I was like, yeah, exactly, that's me. So for these people, Split and Split Archipelago and the Cigar Smoking World Championship, and the reason for their arrival to Europe was the cigars, will be the representation of Europe. And they will go back home and they will speak about this. So this was a generated demand by a person who is an expert in what he does, who has spent years of self-teaching and increasing his knowledge, who worked on bringing together something that is not common to us, cigar smoking, creating an event out of that, promoting at the same time Croatia and Dalmatian coastline and Split, and bringing those people. If there is better example, I can't think about it. That's pretty much it.
And to tie it all up, as you said, and this clientele is high income, right?
Oh God, absolutely.
Right, so this is a top class clientele, completely fitting into the luxury segment. And then we need to think about whether we have enough offer locally, right, to cater to their demands. And
because the funny thing about cigar smoking, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Like, what do people need to have in order to enjoy cigars?
lungs.
Coffee.
Success.
No, they need to have time.
Oh yeah.
So you see, cigars are expensive on their own, but money is not a problem. Coiba Esplendido costs 30 euros per stick. One cigar, 30 euros. So it's not, there's a lot of people who can afford it. But Coiba Esplendido, if you want to smoke it properly, it can take 2 hours to enjoy it properly, 2 to 3 hours. And today you have to be very rich to have 2 to 3 hours to spend on a cigar, because especially because you can't smoke it around others who are non-smokers. So that means that you have to have a separate area where you have to remove yourself from most of the people, where you have to kind of switch off from the world, get almost into kind of a meditative state. So we're talking about something that we don't really think this way, but you need to have time. And this is the people we want. They have, they have time because they have enough money. And we have to offer something for their time so that they come and say, wow, this is good use of my time.
Right. Recently, I was at Wine Hotel Rožanić in Istria,
Yeah.
and their cigar room is absolutely spectacular. I mean, the whole experience is beyond words, but the cigar room was just stunning. All right, Zoran, I'd like to thank you for coming again, for being with us again. I'd like to thank our students who were wonderful today. I am very proud of you guys. Great questions, and we all participated. We all did it together. So thank you all. Anything else that you'd like to say, Zoran, to wrap it all up?
Not really, other than I count on you guys to move things forward. Not for yourselves, but for our industry, for Dalmatia, for Croatia, for Mediterranean. You know, to think about the ways how can we make this, all of this, to the satisfaction of as many people as possible, including yourselves, so that you are also happy about what you do and that you make enough money as well, that it makes you, money is at the end of the day way of recognition, not just financial satisfaction, but it's also a way of recognition. And if there is ever times where you think I can assist with something, feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn or send me an email, and I might not always answer right away because I'm traveling a lot, but I promise I will always get back to you.
All right, so you have a great colleague here who trailblazed a lot of territories for us. So stay connected, befriend Zoran on LinkedIn, not just for connections. Obviously, networking is welcome, but also because of knowledge that he shares with us. So Zoran, I want to thank you for your LinkedIn page too. I enjoy thoroughly reading your entries. All right, so that's it for today. And I'm going to stop recording now.